All right. So we've got another audio challenge. Not quite sure what is up with the audio today, but we will find out. So never fear. Tomorrow we'll have it back on. We do have streaming video today. That's been fixed, and I'm not quite sure what's up with these computers, but give them a week to rest, and they need a good stiff beating. I think that's the issue. All right. Well, speaking of beatings, let's tackle our last and final topic of today. You know, the new norm in the United States of America now is for you to be ostracized and intimidated and abused in some way, shape, or form by authority. And, you know, the new norm is that we have the police that are abusing anybody and everybody. And it doesn't matter whether they're old or young. It doesn't matter whether they're black or white, normal, whether they're human, or even when they're animal. The truth is, we've got a problem with law enforcement in this country. We've got a problem with politics and politicians in this country who feel that it's okay for them to abuse you and us in a general consensus or in a general group. You know, I find it very difficult for us to understand how we're best going to solve this problem because, I mean, no one denies that we need law enforcement out there. No one suggests that we shouldn't have police, that we should, live in a state of anarchy. But when we're sitting here and, we have, for all intents and purposes, lost the trust in police and in government agencies. And I'm talking about, all of them, right? Because there is a rise in federal, federal police agencies as well. And when we look at, the question of, do we as individuals have any trust in these law enforcement agencies, whether they be local, county, state, or federal? You got to recognize that at this stage in the game, I don't know that it's possible for us to regain that, at least not in any kind of a reasonable fashion or in a timely fashion. The problem that we have is that we are, for all intents and purposes, we've lost our ability to believe that police are, and law enforcement has our best interest at heart. They no longer do. That should be clear and blatant to anyone. There's an article on the Guardian's Liberty Voice, which is kind of interesting. The topic or the title of it is Police Brutality and the Abuse of Power, the New Normal. And there's some videos and a lot of photographs that are tied to it. But the article goes on to say that not a day goes by without news of another case of police brutality or the abuse of power by officers, which begs the question, is this the new norm? There was a time when it was not so common to hear about abuse by the police, let alone see an actual footage of the abuse taking place. But now in the age of technology, camera phones, video cameras, and even squad car dash cams, it's now possible for the general public to have access to the rampant abuse of power by law enforcement. As police brutality becomes more commonplace, one is left to wonder if the public can ever really feel safe and protected by the very ones supposedly charged with that duty. You see, at this stage, it used to be years ago, at least when I was a kid, on every police car you saw the phrase, protect and serve, to protect and serve. And that was the mandate that law enforcement was given, that their job was to be out there and protect the public from that minority of individuals who endangered all of us in one shape or another, one form or another. But the problem is that at this stage in the game, if you look on most law enforcement vehicles, that phrase, to protect and serve, is long gone. In fact, almost exclusively, you'll see just the term and the phrase law enforcement. That's what they say. And the problem that we have is that we have a nation that has so many laws that are so complex and so intertwined and, quite frankly, contradictory that every one of us is constantly running afoul of the law. Now, frankly, we're not all prosecuted for them. I mean, if I said to you, I'll bet you $20 that, tomorrow morning we're going to see another police brutality case rise up in the national media or in the alternative media, because the national media won't pick it up until the alternative media is beating it to death, right? But if I said to you, I'll give you $20 if we don't see that article hit, tomorrow, technically, that's illegal. I mean, if you and I are sitting over at a table and we decide to throw out a deck of cards and play a game of poker, and we put $10 into the pot on the table, each of us, and play to the end, that's illegal. Now, granted, nobody's kicking in your front door and arresting you for playing poker, but the point is that since we have all of these rules in place, it gives police and law enforcement of all ranges and sizes and shapes and scopes and what have you, it gives them the opportunity to do two things. One is it gives them the opportunity to abuse the individuals who they can effectively go back and use this as a threat to achieve something that they want. In other words, they threaten to charge you with it if you don't do something else. The second issue is that it leads our entire nation to believe that this concept of prosecutorial discretion is acceptable, and it's not. You cannot have prosecutorial discretion and have a rule of law. The two principles are diametrically opposed. It's like matter and antimatter. They cannot occupy the same time and space at the same moment. Rule of law says that rules are nominal, the number of them, and that they apply to everyone. Prosecutorial discretion says something completely different. It says that we have a lot of rules out there, and we selectively apply them to those that are either out of favor with us or we view as an enemy. And therein lies the problem. That's why we have an Internal Revenue Service, an IRS, that is selectively persecuting, and I mean used as a weapon persecuting, groups and individuals in the nation. That's why we have an NSA that arbitrarily and capriciously determines who they're going to monitor based on some nefarious and nebulous excuse that we're never actually even allowed to hear. That's why we have immigration problems where the vast majority of people that are in the country right now, in fact, the recent articles that have been out, and I've talked about this repeatedly, there is less than a 2% chance that if you are already here and living here illegally, you will be deported. So all the protestations of all these people that are out there screaming bloody murder about how deporting families is, there's no chance they're going to get deported, and they know it. They're not talking about people who are here. They want to let more in. But we're selectively enforcing the law to say, well, this is a favored group. These are kids. This is a favored group. These are women. This is a favored group because this is a group that has someone here already and we don't want to break up the family. I mean, how many other excuses can we come up with that really have no bearing on the fact that this person has broken the law? In fact, Jeb Bush came out today or yesterday and he said illegal immigration is an act of love. Yes, they broke the law, but it's not a felony, he says. Really? Hey, Jeb, let me inform you something. The jails are full of people in this country who have broken the law because they needed to feed their kids too. So what are you saying, Jeb? Should we release them all? See, the problem, folks, is that when it's arbitrary and capricious, when you use excuses to, like Jeb Bush did, to say that it's okay if this happens, then you no longer have objective law. And when you no longer have objective law, tyranny is the only result, the only possible outcome of that. Why is that? Because human nature will then utilize those situations to its own best advantage. And until the United States of America and the people who live in this country have made a determination that they are going to make people accountable for their actions, whether that's politicians or police officers or anyone else, we're not going to ever get past where we are right now. You know, there was an article the other day out, which I found very interesting. There's a guy in California who's running for the Attorney General's office. And he is in California now. This is a fairly, remember, California is the most liberal state in the nation, right? And he is suggesting that anyone who would betray and found guilty of a crime that would endanger the lives of others as a politician now, or as someone in official capacity, should be given a choice of how they want the death penalty to be administered. In other words, your choices are firing squad, hanging, or what's the thing where they give you the needle? Whatever it is. This candidate for Attorney General is actually advocating this as a position. Now, quite frankly, I wouldn't disagree with him. In other words, if you're found guilty of a crime that endangers the lives of others, you should face the death penalty. Why? Because you're in a position of authority and power that makes your culpability greater than everyone else's. Greater than mine, greater than yours, greater than your sister, greater than your brother, greater than your mother's. If you are in a position of authority and you abuse that position of authority in order to gain some, whatever the gaining is, it doesn't matter whether it's money, whether it's power, whether it's ego, it makes no difference. You see, this guy, Leland Yee, who was a senator in the California State Assembly, was just charged with gun running to terrorist groups. And interestingly enough, he's an anti-gun zealot. Go figure, right? Not only is he a traitor, but he's a hypocrite. Well, the point is that these people who are working in our state assemblies, who are working in our federal government, and I'm talking about like the head of the EPA, I'm talking about the head of the ATF, I'm talking about the head of the NSA, the CIA, the FBI. These people are in a position, and not just them, but down to the rank and file agent. They have enormous power. They have power because they have police power. Now, what does that mean? Because they have the ability to use their power effectively against you in a damaging way. And if they've endangered your life or the lives of many through their actions, quite frankly, the only way to bring the country back in line from this desperate den of corruption that it is to put together an extraordinary scenario that forces people to recognize that their actions have consequences. And an abuse of trust results in your termination. They have a poll that's held by in this article, and very interesting results. They asked in the poll, should corrupt politicians be executed? Now, I'm sure this is not a scientific poll, but there were 56 responses, 9,000 responses. You're going to be interested when you hear the results. 5,200 people said, yes, a strong message needs to be sent. That's 58%, folks. 58% of the people who responded to this poll said, yes, corrupt politicians should be executed. A strong message needs to be sent. 21% said, yes, but only in the most egregious cases. That was roughly 2,000 people. The third response, or possibility response, and there's only four, was, I'm sorry, there were five. No, public floggings are much more fun, and that was 10%. No, this is a crazy idea to grab attention. That was 9%. And maybe I'm feeling indecisive today and probably shouldn't determine the fate of others. That was 1.25%. My point is simply this. This is on CBS, by the way. This is on a CBS Sacramento website. So, I mean, this is liberal, news organization. My point to you is that basically 80% of the respondents in this said yes. Now, 22% of that said that only in the most egregious cases. But the other 58% said absolutely. They should be put to death and executed for their treason against the public and the individuals that they have control over. Now, we have problems not just with our government agencies, but when we look at what police do and the number of abuses that we've seen at the hands of police of late, and I'm talking about, the most innocent issues have been turned into bloodbaths lately. I mean, you're talking about a cop who, pulls somebody over for, the most meaningless stuff, or, finds someone on the street that they pull over and the thing goes south on everybody. And the next thing you know, you got an innocent person who's dead in the street because, some cop got his dander up. I mean, folks, that's crazy talk. But it's happening every day. If you're not aware of it, since 9/11, let's just put it that way, since 9/11, 2001, we have had more civilians killed by police in this country than we lost soldiers in both Iraq and Afghanistan. Can you believe that? We've had more civilians killed by police than soldiers killed by terrorists in the last 13 years. Something's desperately wrong. If we can't depend on those who we've charged and pay to be responsible for keeping the peace, and if they have become our soldiers working us over as the enemy, where do we turn? I mean, when every innocent, harmless situation turns into police showing up and the next thing you know, there's a bloodbath, you got to question whether or not we have a fundamental problem in this country. The truth is, it's not that there are better ways to categorize it, catalog it, film it. I'm sure that's helping to raise the awareness. but it's on the rise because law enforcement has been given this attitude and the training and the material to be abusive. The shift, ladies and gentlemen, in the last couple of years is not noticeable. It's blatantly, painfully obvious. We now have more cases of police abusing everybody. And I'm not talking about, listen, this isn't limited to just, black people or just, white people or just the poor or just the rich or anything else. I mean, they're kicking in doors on the, in many cases, the wrong one. They're shooting and killing residents. They're shooting and killing innocent people in these homes who hear their door kicked in and they go to and grab a weapon because, I mean, why wouldn't they? Who wouldn't? And they end up dead. Case after case after case after case after case of people being shot in the back. And then the police claim that the person had a weapon. And they only investigate themselves. There's no outside review. There's no one to look from the outside and say, wait a minute. Don't forget, in the average police situation, they're the only ones there. So the witnesses are all covering for each other. The administration, who is looking at it, is more often than not their direct supervisor. And he or she says, hey, I don't want any egg on my face, not to mention the fact that, hey, Bobby's a good guy. I've known him for 20 years. And it probably wasn't so long ago that person who's now ruling on the investigation was doing the same thing, him or herself, out in the streets before. We're finding over and over and over, and this isn't new. This isn't new information that's coming to light. This is because of the ability to with video cameras and stuff. We're finding the most egregious cases of abuse. Abuse where police are falsifying records, planting evidence. I mean, I posted an article up the other day about a guy who got a ticket. It was a $185 ticket in Brooklyn. And he had a dash cam. He told the cop, I have a dash cam. I didn't make that right turn. Because, in New York City, there's no right on red, right? So he made a right on the red or something like that. And the cop, the cop accused him of making a right on the red. He said, I did not. I stopped there. Cop said, no, you didn't, and wrote him a ticket for $185. Guy walked into the courtroom with proof on a video camera, and he said, here, it shows you I stopped, and it showed you that you can see that the light was, or whatever his proof was. And the cop, more often than not, is slapped on the wrist. They walk away. No penalty. These are police who are killing citizens, injuring citizens, shooting them, and then they go back out onto the street. And now they go back out into the street with an impression and a feeling that they can operate with impunity now, baby. Ladies and gentlemen, what we have here is a recipe for disaster. You've been listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans. I am the host here. Please visit our website at americasvoicenow.org. You can also find us on Facebook at facebook.com/America's Voice Now, youtube.com/America's Voice Now. We'll be back in tomorrow morning, and we'll hopefully get our audio jam fixed up. Appreciate your being with us today. Thanks so much. Have a great day. Do me a favor and visit our friends over at the Battery Station. They're a brave and strong supporter of this program. BatteryStation.com. You can also visit them directly at 303 Washington Avenue, West Plains, Missouri, or you can call them at 417-257-7799. They are an excellent organization. They have all kinds of electronic gear, including the largest supply of batteries in the nation. They're one of the biggest distributors of batteries across the country. They have special prices on those 1, 2, 3 batteries that everybody uses now. And they have them made specially for them, and they have exacting standards that far exceed the cheap junk you get out of China. So make sure, and they're American made. So give them a call if you need those. You can call Kevin over there, 417-257-7799. Visit batterystation.com. Have a great day. We appreciate all of you. Thanks so much for your support and encouragement while I was on vacation. Boy, did I need that. Of course, we come back today, and it's like the electronics world blows up because it's Monday, and it's the first day back from vacation, right? So, it's just Murphy's Law. God bless you all. Have a great day. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Keep the faith, and monkey wrench it everywhere you can.